Well, good evening, everybody. Looking forward to having a little chat with Mr. Hoddinott, who I would have to say that having had the pleasure of chatting with Sandy, Steve's greatest supporter. For me, Mark is only beaten to that top spot just by Sandra's longevity. So let's add him into the chat so that he can argue that point if he wants.
There we go.
Hey,
Now I can hear you. G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Wow, what have you got behind you? A green screen?
I have.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely.
Being a shark, I thought I'd have a blue screen, but it didn't work as well. So
no, green for some reason works better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming along and having a wee chat. Do you know, I don't think we've had a chat since the service for the dude.
No,
not a live chat.
No, may I apologise to everyone that I'm sitting there waiting for the chat to start, not realising that I had clicked the the external link, not the actual, guest link, for one of a better term. And I'm thinking, where's Paul? Why? I don't know. It's late.
Yeah,
10:20 p.m. here, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep you very long because I start work very shortly, but I really did want to get on. As I say, if when it comes to Stephen's greatest supporter, you're just beaten into first place by Sandra because of her longevity at the cause. But and if people haven't done so already, I was flabbergasted. I went back to your very first video, your very first MaM YouTube video that sort of really myself and the dude was like raving about this this video that you put together. Can you remember your very first one, your very first video, MaM YouTube video? Well, everybody, it's in the description below, so go and check it out.
What was it about generally? I'll remember it if you give me a hint.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It was about the fact that in your business, you've got checks and balances. You've got systems in place that ensure that if you do something wrong, that that there are repercussions and there are there are remedies put forward, and you have to go by them. But when it comes to Manitrock Sheriff's Department, etc., then no repercussions whatsoever. Can I just answer one question that came up? They were wondering what was going on. Why is why is it taking so long? And
my fault.
No, my fault. But Sherry has suggested that maybe I parked in my wife's spot again. Well, no,
I saw that comment.
It's actually, she is annoyed at me, but not for that. I'm parked in the right place today, but she's mad at me earlier because I did a little tune on YouTube, and it was for a friend of ours. It was their golden wedding anniversary for John and Madge McDonald, and I did this video, you see, and I've written a piece of music. And all of a sudden she said, right, where's have you got it all ready then? Because I'm going to go and see her today. She wanted it in a picture frame, the actual music. I said, well, yeah, go and get me a frame and I'll do it. Well, she came back with, the wooden frame. What I wanted was just a glass one where you put the side clips on. She said, no, that's no good. So anyway, she was really annoyed with me, so I mean, it was all because of the actual frame that we wanted. I mean, where is Gene Crochet when you need him? Exactly.
And where is he when you need a good frame job, right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, that video of yours, the very first one, I think it's from about 2 years ago, at least, if not longer.
Yeah, I started doing them around December 2017, I think it was, or maybe November, but December I think might have been the first one, and because that was my first foray into, with Richard's encouragement, into the YouTube world. So it wasn't long after that I would encourage people not to watch a video I did, which was my adaptation of the Christmas song, The 12 Days of Christmas, which I called the 12 Wisconsin Days of Christmas, I think I called it.
Yeah.
So I had to go through, I made up different, different people for different days. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to remember it, right? I had to remember it. That was a hard thing because, when you're trying to record stuff, I had no editing equipment. So if I fluff, you see it, right? So
yeah.
So I had to record it. But I managed all right without, spitting over the camera too much. So.
No, listen. That was really awesome when we saw what you put together, and it was just that sort of the seriousness of the situation that this is somebody's freedom, their life that you're talking about taken away, and you've got nothing there to to sort of counteract the atrocity basically of what we saw. And I mean, I was that naive. I honestly was watching Making a Murder thinking, when are things going to start changing for these guys? When is somebody going to come along and say, hold on a sec, when's there going to be a breakthrough? I mean, I actually did think when we see that scene of Pete Dassey talking about the dream that Brendan had, I thought, yeah, that could well be the case, that they're going to find Teresa somewhere and everything's going to fall apart. And it doesn't. It's like, it's a tragedy all the way through with an incredibly tragic ending. And we're still waiting on justice, aren't we?
Yeah, and just to go back to that kind of principle of checks and balances.
Yes.
If you don't have those and you don't have them consistently and importantly independently applied, then this thing becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The lack of independence in the local judiciary, the lack of repercussions for prosecutors and others who knowingly do the wrong thing. All of that just creates an environment where what we're seeing happened in Stephen Avery's, Brendan Dassey cases and others has a very fertile ground to grow in. And it's bad for the US, it's bad for justice generally, let alone for the people directly affected.
Sure. Is it sort of partly though, it's dare I say, it's human nature for people to be given that sort of a power without having to worry about what they do, that they will tend to do that. It seems to me as if there's been this gradual erosion over there. It's
I agree. I'm no expert on any of this, of course, but my observations would tell me that there's this misplaced evolution or de-evolution of the justice system and the authority, the unfettered authority of police and other law enforcement personnel, where most evolved Western democracies concerned about their justice system would have very active and independently powerful corruption commissions that are not politically driven. But no one seems to be guarding the guard over there. No one. And maybe they'll prove me wrong when we get to the appeal level. But there's so much evidence of judges and people in the system who are totally comfortable with behaving corruptly, just totally comfortable, and there's no repercussions. In fact, probably the biggest repercussion you see is they often get promoted. Look at Kevin Crane, the prosecutor in Ryan Ferguson's case. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Who deliberately and knowingly coerced witnesses to lie, right? Yeah. And now he's a judge in Missouri, and someone up high in the local university or whatever the position he holds. I mean, it's disgraceful, just disgraceful.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about your background, and obviously we've got the John Farrat book, and I reckon that's Kathleen Zellner holding the book behind you.
No, you really think? Well, that's Kathleen Zellner on the book, of course, but. And that's Kathleen Zellner's appeal document. Yeah. In the other hand, but those two hands belong to Mr. Alan Avery.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
So he's got Kathleen on in his right hand, and her petition on in his left,
Right.
and that's Alan. So
I do apologize. I'm gonna get some new glasses, or at least clean the ones I've got.
yeah,
Talking about photographs, did you like the thumbnail that I put up?
I did. It reminded me of that lovely visit up with Stacey up to Gala Shields, and that was at the train station, I think, just before we left. So
let me pop it up. Let me pop it up.
Okay.
I've got it ready to go.
Okay.
Just click on that one. Click on that one, and it should be this one here. There we go.
Yep.
And this photo was literally moments before yourself and Eunice got arrested for being drunk and disorderly in Gala State train station.
And by Constable Paul Capaldi.
I've got I was taking.
You're the benchmark, right?
Yes. Actually, you know how we got into the trouble at the Marvel Stadium. I noticed somebody the other day had done a free Stephen Avery, free Brendan Dassey, but what they'd done is they'd had it so that they were holding it with the backdrop of the stadium and the crowd, and I don't think we'd have got into so much trouble then. So I mean, it really was my idea to go and tape it using masking tape up on the entrance, wasn't it? You know?
Yeah.
So it was all my fault.
All fault roads lead to you, Mr. Capaldi.
Exactly. And
Eunice tells me that anyway. I'm relying on her as my reference.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. I mean, look, it must be me at fault every time, because it was me at fault the time before, so it must be me.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, we used to give the dude some hard times, but I was very chuffed when I got this. This was from the pupil who has now finished lessons because she's moving up to university. But she gave me a little card along with a bottle of something, and she put that on it. And of course, the point being was, of course, that she was the pupil that cast the deciding vote.
Really?
Yeah. She was the one that I got in touch with you, didn't I, on that Monday evening? It was about 10 to 8, and I said, "How's it looking?" And you said, "It's neck and neck. It's even, Steven." So that's when I said to her, would you vote for me? And she did. She knew the situation. I explained it.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, I did have a tube of Treble soft fruits that I did exchange for her vote. But anyway,
what a crazy event that was. Seriously.
Yeah. I look back on
that. Judge Wilcox.
Carry on. Yes, he was corrupt as hell. He was the worst. He was the worst of the two judges put together because they changed the goalpost at the last minute. But anyway. Enough about
that. That's the rules in Wisconsin. Right?
Yeah, yes.
Or at least in Manitowoc and Calumet. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, that's looking back on your video that you did with the dude where you did the raffle for the original Control Question T-shirts. And
that was out at the salvage yard, right?
It was right at the salvage yard. Yeah, right next to the sign there. That was brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. So you with your Jimmy hat.
Yeah, that's right. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe.
Yes. and you drew one out and you said, "Oh, Sheriff Herman," and just screwed up and threw it away.
That's right. And I don't know whether you realized at the time we were doing that, just some random sightseers came along wanting to take a photo of the Avery Salvage sign. And here's Richard raving away as only Richard knows how to. Yeah. And somewhere in that he had to indicate to them to sort of nick off, right? So we're doing a movie here, guys.
Oh dear, it's funny. It's funny, yeah. Yeah. Have you had a chance to have has there been any phone correspondence with Steve recently? Have you managed to
I did
catch up with him?
speak to Stephen about maybe 2.5 weeks ago. I think I was on as a viewer, as a subscriber. I was on your channel. I might have mentioned that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I spoke to him about 2.5 weeks ago. I think it was. He's full of beans and very happy and always positive. He spends half any conversation asking you about me or my family or the supporters, or he's very very aware of how much the supporter world means to him, and we sometimes forget that he doesn't see what we see in the supporter world, right? He's relying on representations from people who speak with him, whether that's Sandy or other people who Stephen speaks to. He speaks to quite a few people. But, he doesn't get to see Facebook or Messenger or Twitter or, videos. And so, but he's very heavily across his case. I'd love to be sitting with him when he gets out and sit down and watching Making a Murderer with him. That would be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He would, it's interesting because when I was speaking with Sandra, and I asked her the question of, has Stephen ever sort of pointed the finger and said that's who's to blame? As far as I can see, he's always said, look, I don't know who set me up. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely true. I remember the very first time, well, maybe not the first time, but certainly early on in my visits to him, he's never accused anyone, right? Never. He doesn't know who sadly has killed Teresa. I mean, he, like us all, knows that the prosecution didn't do anything other than to focus on him, and there are other people that were deserving of investigation. But it's a big leap from that to accuse someone. And Stephen is very mindful and conscious of the importance of the presumption of innocence, and he doesn't know. That's one thing, and secondly, and the reason was he doesn't know, by the way, because he wasn't there.
Absolutely.
And he won't get into the game of speculation either. So
no. It was interesting because in the video with Sandra, Barb came in and offered a few comments, and I actually got in touch with her straight afterwards and said, that's really, really pleased to see you in the chat, and if at any time you fancy coming along and talking about Brendan, then I would be absolutely delighted to have you come on and talk about Brendan. What's interesting for me, two things. First of all, obviously Kathleen Zellner's motion names Bobby and Scott directly.
Yes.
I feel that's Kathleen Zellner's way of getting at the state. She has to do it through Scott and Bobby in order to say, look, there's, as Dr. Silton's put here, who pressured Bobby Dassey? There was obviously pressure put on them,
No. I mean, I have. The question of Bobby Dassey, he, like any number of other players, should have been more thoroughly investigated.
Exactly.
That's point one. I mean, with due respect to Barb and Scott and the family, I do believe that Bobby perjured himself in his statements in court in regard to seeing Teresa not leave the property and walk towards Stevens. And so then, but do I believe he's responsible? I don't know that, whether he is or not, but I think at the very least, I'm fairly certain that the police or the law enforcement pressured him over what they discovered on his computer. And that of itself may have resulted in some criminal prosecution for that. But that's me surmising, but about things that are on the record. But but would I, because that there isn't the hard evidence, and if there was, it's deserving of its day in court, not its day in the media.
Yes.
I'm not at all in the position, nor want to be in a position of accusing anyone else either. Or the only accusation I make is that the police, the law enforcement people, didn't do a thorough job, but not just didn't do a thorough job knowingly, didn't do a thorough job, because it didn't suit their pursuit of Stephen if they did do a thorough job. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more likely than not that in the end, short of something we don't already know about, which is always quite possible, that the real conviction of the person responsible for Teresa's death may never be known, because it's been let sit for so long without proper prosecution, because for reasons that were deliberate, that the ability to prosecute anyone else, short of lots of confessions, is fairly slim, I would have thought. But but the important thing, final point I would make on that is it's Kathleen's role to provide a newly discovered evidence that produces doubt, that a jury would believe it had that evidence been in their hands at the time, it would have produced reasonable doubt. Now, the other part I would say to that as well, there was absolute reasonable doubt in the first trial when you end up with 7 jurors voting not guilty on the first count.
Yeah.
So even I believe Jerry and Dean Strang did a pretty good job, even though there were probably some other things they might have done. But I think they did a pretty good job. But the best job in the world is not going to overcome corruption in the jury room, and there's clearly, in my view, corruption in the jury room. So
absolutely, yeah. I think when it comes to knowing who actually did it, I can just imagine Dr. Siltman, suggesting that if Kathleen Zellner ever gets her hands on the RAV4 and is able to test item A23, the bloody handprint on the back, that will probably most likely be the perpetrator. So it just, if we get on that RAV4. What I really wanted to say though is this, that it struck me that there's so much attention paid to Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick, and yet I've been pointing out for the last 3 years, what about Mike Holbach's grieving process? And it struck me earlier today that you've got Mike Holbach grieving, and so therefore he's already accepted the fact that the demise of Teresa, and he, as I've said all along, the family members are the last ones to accept that anything bad has happened. And I would compare that with Barb, bless her, who constantly says this has nothing to do with any members of her family. She will not accept that, that there's any wrongdoing by her side of the family. And yet you've got Mike Holbach, on the other hand, who's quite happy to accept that, when his sister is only a missing person, he's already started grieving. And it just struck me as being, there's something very odd in this, If there is. I mean, pressure on somebody to talk, it would be Mike Holbach.
Or even Mrs. Holbach, which is sad in a way, because she's a mother that's lost her daughter, and but I think that family has been entwined into this corruption environment.
Yes.
To what degree? Either through silence or through active deception, I'm not sure, but Mrs. Holbach on the stand would be an interesting witness to examine. I'm not suggesting she's done anything wrong personally, but all I'm suggesting is that I think there's a wider world of zipped lips in Manitowoc and Calumet than we would like to think would happen in such a serious case.
Yeah. I mean, not least, who actually asked for the bones to be returned, and do you believe that they are Teresa's?
Exactly. That would be my first question. If I was the person, I guess Kathleen, I would be talking about. If I was her, I'd be saying to Mrs. Holbach, when the bones were returned to you in whatever date it was in 2011, did you believe that they were your daughters? Right. Yeah. Answer. What's the answer got to be? Yes. Yeah. Right. why did you? Next question would be, why did you believe they were your daughters? Because law enforcement told me, or whomever told me they were.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still believe that they're your daughters?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Okay. I mean, that's all you need to ask her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what would you say if you found out that they weren't your daughters, you were given someone else's bones?
Yeah.
What would you think about that? You know, they're the sorts of questions, you know. I mean, they're sad question to ask a mother whose daughter has died. I mean, seriously, it's awful to think about asking her those questions. But this, Paul, is where the problem is. The corruption has been allowed to perpetuate for so long. More and more people get caught in this circle and get hurt, and caught up in this evil way of behaving in Calumet and in Manitowoc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I'm not going to keep you much longer because I did promise a wee chat, and I've actually got some teaching to do very shortly. But I just wanted to ask Mark, what's on for the evening for Mark then? Are you looking forward to St Kilda hopefully winning the AFL championship?
That'd be great, actually. Yeah. It'd be great for the AFL because St Kilda have been really on the bottom end of the scale for a long time, and they're a very popular football team down there.
Yeah.
But I have to brag tonight because just before I came on, I was watching my beloved rugby league team, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who were playing the team that was regarded as being the favourites to win the premiership. The final start next week, and they beat them 60 points to 8.
Wow.
It was an absolute thrashing. I'm going, oh, my God. So
who did they beat?
They called the Sydney Roosters.
But that was the ladies' team, wasn't it? No, you know.
Well,
I mean, the Sydney Roosters, as you say, I remember growing up.
They won the premiership the last 2 years in a row. The Sydney Roosters.
Wow. I remember you took me on the day that I was flying out. You took me to see Manly and Bondi Beach.
Yeah, that's right.
We were near Manly. That was the big name. Manly were the big name in rugby league when I was growing up. You know, from Australia, they were the big ones. How are they doing these days?
Middle. They're not going to make the finals. They're in the middle of the pack, but they're not going to quite get to the finals. So, anyway, they're a good football side.
So watch out for the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Yeah. And you know what a Rabbitoh is? You know what a Rabbitoh is, Paul?
I have no idea what a Rabbitoh is. It sounds like a rabbit, but it's probably not.
Yeah. No. It's to do with the rabbit, and the rabbit is their symbol.
All right, okay.
But in the early days of Sydney, you know, Australia was fairly poor country in the 100 years ago. Catching rabbits for food was just part of what people did. And even in the city areas. And a Rabbitoh was a guy who would catch rabbits and walk around the street selling them, after they were deceased, I should hasten to add. So that was his job was called a Rabbitoh. And South Sydney is an inner city club. It's like a Chelsea type club, but obviously not as coffee as Chelsea, right? So, that's how they got their name. They've been in the competition the longest since 1908 when it started, and they've won the most premierships as well. So
excellent. I will watch out for them. I am going to say cheerio and let you go. I would advise everybody, please, to check out Mark's video, Mark's first foray into the world of YouTube, because as I say, it's absolutely brilliant, and I think you would. Everybody would enjoy watching that. So I think we'll just leave you to do the final farewells, if you would, please.
Well, just before I do that, I'd encourage everyone to get involved in the many things that seem to be going on for the wrongful conviction day next Friday. Friday, the 2nd, and the weekend. There's quite a few things going on, I see, and it's a great thing to be involved in, and I might be involved in something. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. But thank you to everyone for listening in and And it's always good to talk to supporters who do a wonderful job. And so it's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
And if you haven't done so already,
please hit subscribe
on Mark's channel.
I am gonna try to kick it off a bit more. I haven't done anything for a long time, so in honor of Richard, I'm going to try to do a few more videos.
Excellent.
Now, so we'll see.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone. All the best.
That
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, thank you,
my friend.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now.